So we've had a full range of things we've discussed today, from philanthropy to now security. I think everybody here knows that the world is in the midst of what I would call a sea change. 10 years ago, when you thought about terror and crime, you thought about physical things. Today, most people think about cyber attacks. We've all heard about, and probably many of you have personally experienced some type of data breach in terms of your personal information. Often the bad guys are a step ahead of the good guys, and our speaker will share often it's not the mom and pop operations, it's actually organized crime. TAG has identified information security as a where Georgia leads category. In other words, we're number 3 in the nation in terms of security. We have over 115 information security companies in our state. In fact, Augusta, the Army Cyber Command has just said that Augusta is going to be the home for the command, which is going to be a game changer for that area, and it's going to help to continue to grow our area. So we're fortunate to have the leader of the top security company in our state here today. Mike Cote is General Manager and Vice President of Dell SecureWorks. In 2002, Mike became Chair and CEO of SecureWorks, and for the next 9 years, the company grew to become an industry leader. In 2011, Mike led the company through an acquisition by Dell, and at that time, he was also named Ernst & Young's Regional Entrepreneur of the Year and ACG's Deal of the Year. The company's star has continued to rise under Mike's guidance. He was at our table talking about the growth they continue to have. But I've gotten to know Mike beyond his business. He's an entrepreneur at heart. He's also a CPA, 2 words you don't often put together. He's a community leader. He serves on the TAG Board of Directors, the Marist Board of Trustees, and St. Joseph Hospital. We served on Catholic Charities Board together for a while, and then he got bumped up to become the head of strategic planning for the Archbishop, and he helped them to create a 10-year strategic plan. He's a family man. Mike and his wife Kathy have been married for nearly 31 years, and he has 3 boys and a daughter, and as I understand it, his first grandchild's on the way. And even though his roots are firmly planted in Georgia, he still bleeds the maroon and gold colors of the Boston College Eagles. His first oldest son is a BC grad, and now his youngest son is a sophomore at BC. With that, I'd like to call on Mike Cote.
Thank you very much. One housekeeping item I'd like to do in front of this great group of people and very successful executives is I need to start by giving a call out to my dad and my brother who are here to thank them for coming, and please make sure you tell Mom I gave her a call out as well. So I've had a handful of people ask me if I'm going to scare you, and the answer is probably yes. But I've taken this on a little bit like a mission. I think the answer is yes because we're not educated. And I want to spend this time to try and educate you. So as of this weekend, I gave up my role in SecureWorks and I took on the role of the chairman and CEO of Hacker Inc. So I'm going to walk through to tell you the types of things I have at my disposal, the types of things that we can do around the world. And I'm really trying to do this from the perspective of you understanding, because I think there's much greater risks we all face every day. I actually believe that the press is making this a big deal, and it is a big deal, and it's great for business. But we need to understand as a business how to respond to it. So if we start with Hacker Inc. for a minute, it is a tremendously large organization throughout the world. We can't onboard people quickly enough. And actually, I'm amazed at how quick the network is growing and people are working with each other. So when I say people, what am I referring to? Well, this started, remember, the internet's less than 25 years old as far as us dealing and using it. Matter of fact, I was telling Tommy at the table, if you're under the age of 30 and you're a computer programmer, you did not have a computer programming class in college. They just weren't offered. Matter of fact, there's only 2 universities in the United States today that offer internet security majors. We are way behind with regard to responding to this, but we have script kiddies that started, people that did this for fun in the early days. And then organized crime realized there's real money to be made, so they got involved in the game. And I'll give you some examples of the types of things. And when I say organized crime, I don't just mean the Italians up in the Northeast. They're all over the world. Matter of fact, Russia, if it's money related, Russia is really the best organized crime group around the world. And as far as getting to people, if you put a brand new cell phone on the internet or a brand new computer out of a box, it's about 2 to 3 minutes before somebody scans it to decide whether they want to spend a little bit more time looking to see what's there and what we can do with it. There's, of course, nation states, without mentioning any names because I found out this is recorded, but there are nation states around the globe that would like to come after different organizations, particularly people in the United States. And then there's activist group. We've all heard about Anonymous, but it's quite frankly any group that has a cause that wants to promote that cause has an open forum with the internet to do so. My organization, and it's a loosely knit group of people today, so part of my goal is to bring these folks together from different areas, is looking to take anything of value you have, and we want to do it in a manner that you don't know we've done it. So it's unlike any other technology problem we have in the world, right? Every other technology problem we solve and then we move on and we do the next thing. We may make that solution faster or better. In this case, there is a person and more people than we have on the good guy side here. By the way, Tino, there's a new internet security company moving to Atlanta I can give you the name of because we have truly become a hub in the world for internet security, which is spectacular. But there are people trying to get into and determine whether you have data of value, whether you have money they'd like to take, and quite frankly, if I were going around this room, I'd only want to take sort of $5 out of everybody's pocket because I don't want you to know I'm doing it, I just want to continue to do it. My cost of sale is pretty small in my business, by the way. If I have an internet connection, it's just time, and it's time of people that do it. But I'll go through that in a little more in a minute. Last year, it's believed, I thought when I was running Dell SecureWorks, we were growing fairly quick. We grew 33% last year and hired about 450 to 500 new people. At Hacker Inc., we added a 78% growth rate and took a little over $1 billion. And our accounting is not the best over here at Hacker Inc., but we took about $1 billion things of data, records that we stole last year. So, like any organization, we have a mission, we have a vision, and well, we really don't have values from your view of values, which is part of the problem on this, by the way. You have to realize that in China, unless the Chinese government, which I think owns part of your organization, in China, they don't believe in intellectual property, in IP rights, intellectual property rights. So there's just different views. And by the way, some of the people that get on the internet, because it's easy to get internet access, can do what they think is right from a values perspective. But what we're really looking to do is to have the ability to manipulate the world without everybody knowing we're manipulating the world. Interestingly enough, when I was with Dell SecureWorks, we actually got called in on 2 electric grids in the United States where people from an unknown government had gotten in and were just monitoring things in the network of the electric grid. Could they have turned it off? Probably. Did they want to? Not yet. The time horizon's much different. So we have to, again, this is education, not fear, I'm hoping. We need to change our thought process and how we look at some of these things and think about it. So today, we're about a $750 billion organization at Hackers Inc. If you look at the damages, which are estimated to be between $400 and $500 billion, there's some IP that we have that's another 20 to 40, $50 billion. And then I've got some new services that I'll take you through in a minute to tell you some of the things we do. It is a complete system. It's a complete marketplace that's out there. So when you think of the hacker world today, and by the way, even thinking of the hacker world today, so this is a magazine, and anybody seen this? It's called the Hacker Quarterly. I bought a lifetime subscription to the Hacker Quarterly. This is not considered a bad thing. The reality of it is, anything with a computer has a human being that got involved in coding it, so therefore there are mistakes in it. And this is just trying to highlight some of the mistakes that are in it so that the industry, the good guy industry, can get better. So this part of the hacker industry is the good part of the hacker industry with regard to what they're trying to do. Actually, over the weekend, I typed in how to become a hacker, now that I'm in this new job. And it came up and it says the couple of things you need to know before you hack. You need to learn a programming language. You need to know who your target is. And it just sort of walks you through. This is the third one down on how to become a hacker. So I didn't have to spend a lot of time kind of going through it. But there's a complete economic system out there that exists. If we started, for example, let's just say I wanted to hack into SAP. and people may have heard of SAP organization. Well, there are people that exist around the world who just work out of their home, specializing in writing code to hack into SAP. And you can buy that on the website used to be, but it's now moved to a different one called Wasabi Lobby. Well, Wasabi Lobby is the eBay of the hacking code. And you can rent it or you can buy it permanently, however you end up wanting to do it. And by the way, if you bought it, you want to distribute it. Right? I mean, what do I do when I've got the hacking code? Somehow I need to do something with it. So there's a website called 76.com, and they've marketed themselves. So it's 76.com winner. Or 76winter.com, 76 summer, 76 fall. They're trying to really up their game from a business perspective in the way they do it. And of course, there's training that we sell. There's all kinds of things around service excellence, making sure that there's guarantees. The industry's evolved dramatically. So there's a complete economic system that exists, and it exists in different parts of the world where people can communicate. Matter of fact, like any organization, we have conferences. And we have sales promotions. So actually stepping out back into my Dell SecureWorks role for a minute, this is a real shot of a hacker conference, bad guy hacker conference, that happened in Russia, okay? And this is the car they gave away to the top salesperson of that group in Russia. So they're even so brazen, quite frankly, as they put their pictures on the internet. So these last 3 slides are real pictures of people that are out there. So these are real organizations. They're getting together just like we're getting together here. They're trying to educate themselves. They're trying to get better at what they're doing. They're trying to figure out what they want to do from a longer term perspective. So again, thinking about, I'm back in my new CEO role, thinking about the things that are happening from the other perspective and what they're trying to do to come after you. So one of our best service lines is counterfeit credentials. For those who can't see in the back of the room, the top one is a new identity, which is about $250. If you want a utility bill to go with it, it's another $100. The next one down is passports. These are non-US based passports, and they're between $200 and $500. We can get you a non-US based passport. In many instances, the lower amount is if you just want a scan of it, because if you want a new job, by the way, you can use a scan of the passport. You don't need your real passport. You can just pass that along. The next one down on the item, which I can't read them. Thank you, driver's licenses, which I think is a couple $100, and the bottom one is Social Security cards. Social Security cards you can get, mainly they've been using that to defraud the IRS, which I think we all read last year or the year before around tax season about how much money was taken from the IRS and fraudulent tax returns that were prepared. Refunds came in, and that was kind of the way that worked. This is fascinating. I talked about the other business line we have is tutorials. Well, here is the tutorials that you can buy online. The top left one is, and they run between $1 and $30, but the top left one is basically how to turn credit into cash. If you gave me a credit card, how do I make sure I cash it out? The middle one that's circled is how to go into an ATM machine and take out more money than you actually put in. So if I said I want to take $300, how can I say $300 and actually get out $1,000 beyond the daily limit? The next one up on the top right will take you through and talk about how to successfully bank wire transfer money. And then the third one over to the right is how to get $1,000 on eBay any day. So a bunch of different tutorials we've written. They're on the internet. If anybody would like to buy them, you can get in this business pretty quickly, and it's not overly expensive. From a premium credit card, one of the things that's really been growing, it used to be we just picked up any credit card and we'd resell those credit cards. Now it's premium credit cards are running at a real premium, mainly because people that own a premium credit card, a black, a silver, gold type credit cards, affinity type credit cards are people that have a lot of money. They don't want to lose you as a client, so therefore they deal with you a little differently. Premium credit cards, we get most of our inventory today from the United States, from Canada, from Brazil, from the UK, and interestingly enough from Georgia, and not the state of Georgia, the country of Georgia. And we have about 14 million credit cards on this website right now, and you can see the rates at which you could buy them if you want. And I'll give you the service excellence part of those credit cards you can buy in just a minute, because of course in a full business I want to make sure we do it appropriately and you're getting service value for what you're paying for. So Bitcoin, one of the things that we had a problem as this evolved, and I'm hoping I can kind of make this work a little better for us. If I had people in Russia and people in Iran and people in the United States and people in Brazil, and they're all connected through this internet of this giant organization, Hacker Inc., I wasn't sure how I could get everybody paid. So there popped up a couple of payment methods, and Bitcoin was one, eGold is another, Easy Money is another. And effectively, if you were writing hacking code and you wanted to buy it, you guys clearly don't trust each other. So you want to work through a middle guy, and I decided to set up one of those payment methods. And Bitcoin was one of those payment methods. That's how Bitcoin came about. So we could work, and I take just a little bit of a transaction. I wouldn't take anything like a bank would take today. I'll take a small fee. And effectively what happened was you could turn your pesos into Bitcoins, and you could turn your UK pounds into Bitcoins, and we transact, and I just take a little bit. So Bitcoin has been tremendously helpful for us to be able to conduct business the way we want to conduct, to make sure everybody's being paid appropriately. It is not like cash. Actually, Bitcoin can be followed. It's on computers around the world, so we can figure out not necessarily your name without some help, but we know what your address is in your Bitcoin wallet, your digital wallet where you hold those Bitcoins. And it's been unbelievably helpful because, remember, we're dealing with a global basis where we have 7.5 billion, 8 billion people in the world today, and we've got all these different currencies, and about a third of those people are unbanked. So they had no way to even get on this. Well, now those people have internet. Most of those people, about 85% of the people in the world, are believed to have cell phones, and they now have access to the internet, and therefore they can now change and join my army of people using Bitcoin and be able to make some money, which, by the way, a little bit of money goes a long way with them. I mentioned service excellence. With the credit cards today now, we offer 100% valid rate on the premium cards that you steal. We will replace any of them that are not valid, don't have valid numbers that work, and actually we'll give you a credit card guarantee that you get at least $200 per credit card. By the way, stepping back into my Dell Securities world, all of this is real. This is all, none of this is make-up stories. This is all things that exist today. Ransomware is one of the lines of business we have that I'm not overly proud about. CryptoWall came out in the last year or so, and it basically infects your computer, and it starts to lock your computer up and encrypt everything so you can't get anything off your computer. We've infected at least 1 million computers today. We've made about $2 million. Again, for those math people in the room, it's a pretty high gross margin because I don't have a whole lot of cost to distribute this. So we charge you $500 before the timer goes to zero, and once the timer goes to zero, we double it to $1,000. If you don't pay us fairly quickly, we typically will move on because there's too much easy hunting ground today. If you wanted to hire our SEAL Team 6 kind of guys, we've got a separate group of guys that are our mercenaries, our espionage for hire, top-notch type guys. These guys we found typically dealing where there's a lot of heavy intellectual property. For example, an airline where they may be making a big plane and somebody wants to take the plans for that plane. We've seen an instance where there is a pretty well-known conglomerate that makes pesticides. And I think these guys were hired to pull some of the formulas out just so we didn't have to buy the pesticides. If we picked up all the formula, we could figure out how to make the pesticides on our own. We had a little bit of a problem with animals or bugs killing the crops in this one specific country. So you can hire mercenaries for hire. Basically, they're fairly expensive. These are the top-notch hit guys, but if you want to go a little less, for $100 to $200, we have people that'll hack into a website for you. I don't know if people have seen DDoS or know what that means, but it's distributed denial of service, where basically you take an attack at something. So to take a website down, for example, we could do it for an hour for $5. It's a daily rate of $90 or a weekly rate, depending on how aggressive you want to be in going after somebody. But keep in mind, one of the problems I'm having in this organization is I think the best way for us to operate, and the smart people understand, doing those sort of things get in your face and make it so that you have better and better security. I really just want to stay kind of hidden and unknown. I'd rather do all this without you knowing I'm on your network or knowing what I'm doing, and just over time I can figure out how to sell your data. For example, botnets, I think most people probably know what a botnet is, where they have gain control to use the computing power on your computer. Well, often when we do that, we'll find that you have movies on your computer. Well, you won't know we're there. We're just using your computing power, and then I can go off and sell the movies because I got those for free too. So we'll just set up a little website and we can sell the movies off to the side at discounted rates and make a little bit of money. So doxing is a way and a method to go after and figure out what your social media site looks like. What is your social profile, or what's your profile look like on the internet? It's really starting with Facebook, and then you can move over to LinkedIn or any of the other profiles and get a sense of who you are. And we can have people that'll do that for you too. It ranges depending on how difficult or important the person is, between $25 and $1,000. Matter of fact, as I've talked about this getting to be too much in the media, Catlin Insurance came out and basically said that the balance sheets of the insurance companies are not large enough to deal with the problems. And the Lloyd CEO recently said cyber attacks cost business as much as $400 billion, and they are completely struggling with how to deal with this from an insurance perspective. In the SecureWorks world, by the way, we're working with some of the insurance companies to figure out how to properly underwrite this. And I think, again, it gets back to education, and I'll end this with, do we have the correct positions in place to deal with it? So spear phishing is, and I think it's actually changed some in my mind, but spear phishing came about to basically send you emails, right? The Nigerian person looking for so-and-so, or your friend is stuck in. That was the first iterations of spear phishing. What's happened today is spear phishing has become much, much more focused. It may be where they decide they want to go after Milford now that he's running KPMG in Atlanta. It may be that they want to go after John Yates because he's the technology lawyer that's in Atlanta a lot. And they will pick you, so they'll actually target people, and it's become much more targeted. That's why advanced persistent threat you hear in the industry is really the same types of tactics, techniques, and procedures that hackers used to use, or my guys used to use. Now they're just persistent about it, and if they have enough firepower, they'll basically get through. So I thought what would be fun would be to get a little audience participation on spear phishing, and a little unknown audience participation. So I'm not sure how this is going to go over. And unfortunately, I have dinner with Tino tonight. And since he asked me to do this speech, I thought we'd pick up. Now, I'm going back into the Dell SecureWorks world. Okay, in Dell SecureWorks, we actually have a service that we do some of this, and we'll take executives and I'll look at my guys and say, spend an hour, no more than an hour. I want you to go after and see what you can find out about Tino Mantella. And I sent an email to the office and said, tell me how you would attack Tino. And actually, Tino, for your knowledge, I have the report right here if you want it, or if anybody else wants it. Actually, maybe the highest bidder. So what do we know? Tino, this was all on the internet. This was 1 hour work so that you can get a sense of what's out there. We know Tino's name. We know his birth date. We know his occupation. I have his phone number. I have 2 email addresses, not 1 but 2. I have his Twitter account. I have his religious persuasion. I know his education and where he went to school. His house. I've got his home address. I actually have the floor plan of the house in case we really wanted to go after to do anything. I know he's very actively involved in a lot of things in Atlanta. It was extremely prominent. I have his family. There's a picture of Deborah, his wife, his 2 daughters, Dana and Carla, his son Brock and Maggie. And why did we put Maggie in there? Well, Brock proposed to Maggie. It looks like Christmas time because I think I can see the tree in the background. I'm not sure if she was on email responding to him with the cell phone right next to her, but I understand that she said yes. So we know that they're getting married. And what would I do? So if I were truly one of the hackers and wanted to go after Tino for whatever the reasons are, I would send him an email from one of the 9 boards he's on, which is very easy to spoof. And by the way, we do this going back to my Dell world, we do this within Dell using Michael Dell's email. So I will send executives within Dell an email from Michael, and it's amazing how quickly they respond, and it picks up quickly, particularly if they click on a link and says, this was a false email. Didn't you realize that? But everybody's trying to respond real quick. Sent an email from his son Brock regarding the upcoming wedding on September the 6th, which I assume that's the date, Tino. Or you could use Twitter, right? We could set up a fake Twitter account, send a tweet to Tino, and then follow back with a payload delivered via Twitter. And once he clicks on that payload or clicks on the button, then he doesn't know it, but we'll have complete control of his system, and we can then play around and go from there. And remember, this is only time. It's only time on our part. And our view of time for the people in this room versus my guys, my Hacker Inc. guys' view of time, thank goodness we are not truly a conglomerate organized, is very different. The other person I wanted to pick on, it goes the other extreme, was Neil Purcell. And unfortunately, Neil is not here. But I also have his report, if anybody would like his report. It's very different. Neil was my first boss's boss, I think, when I started in 1983 working in Atlanta at KPMG. He was a former director of Synovus. He currently serves on the board of trustees at Emory. former vice chairman of KPMG, served 6 years in the U.S. Army, which I never knew about Neil. Graduated from Emory with a BA in accounting. We have his house as well. We have a picture of Neil and Martha and their grandchildren. We have his daughter Elise and his daughter Kim and their pictures. But interestingly enough, Neil's different in that he has very little on the internet about Neil. He's not extremely active in social media, so were somebody to want to target Neil, it becomes a much more difficult thing. For example, they'd probably have to go through his wife, his daughters, somehow figure out if they could send something via a daughter or the wife, Martha's email is out there, and be able to get to Neil. And he does have a lot of affiliations with organizations, so that's kind of the different types of things that you could do to kind of go after Neil if you wanted to. A little more difficult. My guess is, I'm not sure whether Neil would click on the links. I was going back and forth via email with Neil today because I wanted to give him a heads up I was going to do this. So what is the biggest risk to our business from a Hacker Inc. perspective? This is the opposite of what should I do, not with you as individuals because we deal mostly with corporations, but I imagine I may get that question and I can answer it if you'd like. For corporations, the ones that are the biggest risk to my business as Hacker Inc. is the ones that really have a thought-out internet security policy, that monitor their logs constantly, that have firewalls that are updated regularly, that have intrusion prevention systems, that have advanced malware systems. The most important thing on this slide, or the two most important things, are vigilant employees and prevent, detect, respond, and predict. And what I mean by that is you will not keep the bad guys out of your network. They may already be in your network. So the most important thing is prevent what you can prevent, detect once they've gotten in so that you can figure out how to respond, which doesn't necessarily mean take the computer offline, by the way, because once they get in, they've often created 3 or 4 or 5 different ways to get in. So you really need to monitor and watch what they're doing for a period of time to respond appropriately, and then predict where they're going next. So I think if you can do sort of things in that cycle, it would make the most sense. What I was hoping to do, and what I hope I've done some, is to try and help educate you a little bit on how real this industry is. It's not something I think you necessarily, it's easy for me to say now, be fearful of it, right? From a personal perspective or a corporate perspective, I think the most important things to do is to figure out what you have on the internet. What are the assets? What are the things of value? What intellectual property? Your personal banking account, your corporate banking account. I will tell you that wire transfers, and I'm leading into what may be a question, are much, it's a little different on a wire transfer sent versus a check. And there may be bankers in the room that know this better than I, but I do know there's 3 state Supreme Court cases where Patco Construction had $250,000 taken from it, a small construction company in Maine, and it went to the state Supreme Court whether Patco was liable or the bank was liable. The Long Island school system had $750,000 stolen from it, and again, that one went to the Supreme Court to determine whether, and both those cases, the third one I can't remember, both those cases it was, did the school system or Patco Construction have an appropriate level of internet security? How in the world a judge or a jury is going to determine an appropriate level of internet security is way beyond me to understand, quite frankly. But wire transfer is a little bit different because both of those were wire transfers. But inventory your values, understand that people are coming after you. They're from all over the world. They're only going to come after you because the hunting ground is so great elsewhere. If you show something that is of a lot of value to them, put your net worth. We've only seen one high net worth individual that we've been involved in with the FBI that was targeted. And I've been doing this for 13 years with SecureWorks. It was a guy that was targeted. They took $5 million. He was out on the internet bragging about going to Hawaii and driving his Maserati and his Ferrari and blah, blah, blah. And for whatever reason, the hackers decided to target him. When he took off for Hawaii, they took $5 million out of his investment account, and they went in and took his cars and his electronics out of the house. And basically, he was out of luck. They changed the phone system to be rerouted, but they usually aren't targeting high net worth individuals or things of that nature.